Ladies and gentlemen, we are live. One person from the studio, the other person from the car.
You know what? We're just happy to be here. I'm happy to be here.
No, this is good. There's no complaints. I'm not complaining. This is amazing. So, you are obviously not at home.
No, I am not at home. I have a workshop that I am attending today. The workshop starts at 9 and it's in Oakville. So I was trying to figure out what best way I could still do the podcast and still do the workshop. So I left my house much earlier so I could get to Oakville, do the podcast, and then head in. I'm actually parked right outside of the workshop. I
That's cool.
am the second person here, the organizer. I just saw them go in.
No, that's good. Well, I like what you said. You're like, I need to. I gave her an out. I said, hey, do you wanna just skip it? I know you're you're doing this workshop, whatever. And then she's like, no. I made a deal with the Lord, and to be what is it? What'd you say?
I want to partner with the Lord in all my business dealings,
There-
and I also want to ensure that I'm like doing my best to, um, I guess to do His work as well. You know
Yeah,
what I mean? A lot of it is about like I love this podcast because not only does it give us an opportunity to chat about the gospel, which I totally love, but I feel like it also gives us an opportunity to share our values and our beliefs and our thoughts and our religion, right, with other
yeah,
people, and
yeah,
it's a form of serving, and I love to serve. So how could I say to the Lord, nah, today is not ideal, so let me
yeah,
go to the workshop and let me cancel this. Like the only time that I do cancel and I'm unable to do it is if my kids are sick or if
yeah,
like I lost my voice. But aside from that, I always want to make sure that I put this as a priority along with our other podcasts that we have.
yeah. No, for sure. And it's funny because something of similar caliber happened when I started MTC Life. Like the one of the reasons why I started MTC Life was so I can bring the gospel to many. And then I started, I don't want to say derailing, but I started changing my voice to fit a narrative or to fit the needs and with, fitness. And even though fitness is good, that's not why I started MTC Life. And
Yeah.
so I noticed that, I wasn't as busy and as wanted, but then the minute that I was like, I got refocused like 3 years into the business, I'm like, what am I doing? And I brought it back. I'm like, this is about the message. This is about whatever. I saw a huge, massive increase. And so,
Yeah.
a similar caliber actually today's lesson as well. So I'm pretty excited about this.
Yeah, for sure. Me too. Me too.
Now,
And you know what the crazy thing is like with Jacob, it's taken me years to understand.
yeah,
I remember just kind of reading it and muscling through for the longest time because it's difficult to understand. If you're just reading it, you're just trying to get through it. But if you dive deep into it, there's a lot of symbolism, there's a lot of meaning, there's a lot of hope actually as well with it. So I'm
yeah.
excited to step
It
into it.
actually it took me to teach. It got me to teach seminary for me to learn it.
Yeah.
So I struggled and I was like, what is all of this? And my bad was that I didn't do any of the reference checks. So like on any of the links
Yeah.
and whatever. So that
Yeah.
messed me up, and so I would never do it. But when I started teaching seminary and I started diving deep, and I was like, oh, okay, this is what it means. This is phenomenal. So I absolutely love it. I love Jacob 5.
Yeah, I know because for me, it's like I remember reading this. Like Second Nephi and the beginning of Jacob was all. I always stopped reading after that. Like I restarted the Book of Mormon numerous times, and I always stopped there because I couldn't understand.
Yeah,
I remember one day being like, I need some help. So I actually looked at the Institute manual, and it's the Institute manual that helped me to get through those really difficult chapters. Right? I
yeah,
often cross reference with it.
yeah,
So there's lots of resources out there. If you're feeling confused or you're not exactly sure what it means, look at the resources that are available, which is
yeah.
seminary manuals and institute manuals. They're amazing.
Well, and now the come follow me manual, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's you have all of these things now to better aid and so. Anyways, welcome everybody. So if you if this is the first time listener, we are. I was gonna about to say Mike and Maria. Like what the heck? This is it's now it's starting to happen to me. All right, make Maria and Miguel, and this is the what is that thing?
Don't worry, my water bottle is back.
Oh
My
my
big gun
gosh.
is back because I have a Stanley, but my Stanley is spilling everywhere. it's not helping me to get like to my goal of 1 gallon of water, and I just need something that's simpler. So this bad boy, just
Yeah.
fill these. I'm on a
So
gallon.
much simpler. No, for sure. Anyway, so this is a Christian-based podcast. Maria and I, we are members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. It is a Christian denomination. We use the Bible, both New and Old Testament, and then we teach of Christ, we prophesy of Christ, and we learn of Christ. Another book that we use, it's called the Book of Mormon. And so this year there is a manual that's called Come Follow Me, and goes dive deep into the Bible dives deep into the Book of Mormon while using the Bible and other resources to learn more about Christ. And so this podcast is Maria does her studies during the week. I do my studies throughout the week. And then Saturday mornings in preparations for Sunday class, we come together and we just talk about what we've learned. And this week I'm excited about Jacob 5. All the other chapters are good, but I'm excited about Jacob 5. So this is fun.
All right, let's dive deep. Tell me, okay, so tell me what is, like, what has you so excited about Jacob 5?
Well, it's the fact that I can understand it. And so it's the fact that I can understand it. But this is like, so I'm always amazed. I'm not a planner, right? And like the planning in the family between Tegan and I, it's 100% Tegan. She's the one that knows where we're going, what we're doing. She has like, for our summers are always busy. It's actually, we feel that they're even busier than school year. And so around February, March, like she sits me down and we're like, okay, let's go through June. Let's go through July. Let's go through August. And then like the work and the papers and the crossing and the highlighting and everything that she has, she goes through all of these things. And in preparation for the chaos that's about to start in the summer with the camps, kids' trips, vacations, going away, her work, my leisure around playing Nintendo, like all these different things, right?
What is Clash Titans?
Oh, Clash Royale and Clash of Titans, yeah. Yeah, I don't even know. I don't even play it anymore. But anyways, the point is, this is the Lord at his best. Jacob 5 dives deep into the Lord's mind and how forward thinking he is, and how nothing is by accident. Like he knows us, he knows his people, and then he plans accordingly. And Jacob 5 just really, really dives deep into the Lord's mind. That's why I love it so much. This is one of the few things, besides the plan of salvation, this is one of the few things that you can actually see a tangible resource or a tangible evidence in how the Lord works, his mind works.
Yeah, I agree. I'm like, so we have to remember that the Lord always speaks in parables, but the reason why is because with a parable, you receive what you're ready to receive. And isn't it crazy how sometimes there are certain like layers that you have to uncover so you can read the same story and get like different things almost every single time? Because this time around for me, one of the things that was so prevalent in what I read is the love of the Savior, the love of Heavenly Father that they have for us. And one particular scripture, I don't have my scriptures in front of me right now, but it talked about how basically he gives us time. You know, he goes back. So let's give a quick synopsis of the actual chapter. So do you wanna go ahead, because I just don't have it in front of me?
Yeah, for sure. So, so this week we studied 5 through 7. 5 really goes deep into the allegory tree, and it's just it's a parable of a man, the Lord of the vineyard. He has this tree, and it's a good tree, and it provides a lot of fruit. And the tree, what he decides to do is he decides to cut a branch, use that branch, and plant a tree somewhere else. And then which he does. He takes a branch, he cuts it off, he uses that tree, goes somewhere else, somewhere where it's fruitful, plants the branch, and then a new tree starts sprouting from that branch. And then in, like, you know, he has 2 trees now. he does it in a sense knowing that the original tree one day is going to die. It's going to wither away. It's not it, you know, it's gonna, something bad's gonna happen to that original tree. And so which actually does happen. That original tree starts to like wither away, starts to die. And so what the man does is he takes branches from the second tree and starts something that a gardener does, and it's called pruning, which takes that branch and starts attaching it to the other tree to give it life again, right? And so and then that original tree is kind of saved, and so it grows, and now he has these two trees producing good fruits, kind of thing, right? It is a parable, and it is a parable of pretty much Israel and in the what are it called?
The last days,
No,
or the
Israel
oh, the
and
scattering of Israel.
what's that?
Is the story of the scattering of Israel
No, I know.
and the
Gentiles,
gathering? Oh, the
Gentiles.
Gentiles.
Yeah, Israel and the Gentiles, right? And so Jacob file, or the allegory tree, is a parable of what's happening of the gathering of Israel. So, and it just dives deep into like pretty much the last days, the purpose of the trees, and the purpose of pruning and doing all these different things, and then how we, which this whole thing was, it was an act of mercy and pre-planning, and then and how we can contribute to the work, right? How important it is for us to play our role, because we are the branches, right? And so then it just goes from. So that's what this week's all about. That's a brief recap.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so do we know the symbol? Yeah, you know the symbolism, obviously. I don't want to like call you out, like you.
Well, right now I'm like, I don't know, do I?
Yeah, I don't want to call you out. I don't want to be like, yeah. I want to make sure.
Yeah. So one of the things, so this is, I'm gonna try to like, I guess, explain it the way that I understand it. But yeah, you're absolutely right. It's a story about an olive tree, right? And this olive tree is growing and is beautiful and is fruitful. And the Lord grabs the Lord of the vineyard grabs another branch and plants it somewhere else, and then there's another, like it ends up being planted in different places, right?
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that I think I had two key takeaways this week, right? My two key takeaways was with regards to the root of the tree, because one of them talks about how there is the one part of the tree started withering away because the roots did not take place. So the
Yeah.
branch became wild. It was kind of too much, and then the tree started become like withering away. So my takeaway from it is the importance of nourishing our roots,
Mm-hmm.
and it made me, I don't know if this is going to make sense. In all honesty, the discussion today, I have no idea if it's going to make sense, but it makes sense to me. I guess in my particular journey, because the Lord does reveal things that can help us in our temporal journeys, right? And so for the longest time, I feel like I've had, not so much now, but in the past, I was so focused on like certain temporal blessings that I saw, that I felt like I was struggling through them, or I was failing at them, and it was discouraging and whatnot, right? And what helped me with this week's reading is the importance of setting roots, and how when the deep roots are there, sometimes as the deep roots go, sometimes you cannot fully see the growth of the tree because the roots are growing, right?
Yeah,
It makes me think of a bamboo tree. It takes 5 years to actually see a bamboo tree sprout up. So can you imagine watering something and you're like, I hope it's working, I hope it's there, kind of thing, like a bamboo tree? But people have, like the farmers are bamboo trees. They know, they have the faith that it's going to happen. 5 years they take care of it. And in year number 5, within 6 weeks, this tree is like 6 feet tall, right? So then it made me think with regards to this parable and the importance of doing the everyday pruning, the everyday work, the everyday nurturing and watering, and having the fire, sort of that fire of hope and faith and courage that what you're doing is going to give you dividends, is working in your life, because sometimes you don't see it right away,
yeah.
but you see it in the years to come, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like that's what I'm experiencing right now. I've looked back on my life and I've been like, I've been watering the tree, I've been nurturing the tree, I've been pruning the tree, and I felt discouraged in the past, thinking that the tree hasn't grown fast enough, to actually be at a point in time right now where I'm like, dang, these like roots have taken like are deep, and my faith and my hope and my relationship with the Lord has been like strengthened, that I feel that my tree is secure, that
Yeah.
the wild winds can come, things can come, and I can stand still, and I can, like, one of the topics in this week's reading is about defending your faith, right? And I feel that all the work that I have put into it puts me in the place where I can defend my faith, where I have such a trust in the Lord, and where I'm grateful for his love, I'm grateful for his patience, because just like in the parable, it talks about how, like, the tree at times would be wild, right? And there was, like, they had to prune it, and they had to cut it back and get rid of all the stuff that was going on that wasn't good for it. I felt like in the same way the Lord has done that in my life, where I've been in, like, instances in my life where I've been outside of the gospel, but even within the gospel, I've struggled with different things that haven't really helped me, but he's been patient enough to allow me and give me the time that I needed to develop, just like he did with those trees, right? He didn't just go and, like, was like, okay, I'm gonna burn everything, we're gonna start from zero, right? But he actually, when he was working with his servants, he was like, no, we're gonna give it time, we're gonna prune it, we're gonna take care of it, and we are gonna see what happens, kind of thing. So,
And all of that, and you're absolutely right, because all of that is that personal application, right? Every time that we read the scriptures, everything, like from 100%, all the standard works, there is an overall application, right? Like, which, whatever, but then there's a personal application. And 100%, even today, right? With you, like, no, we have to do this podcast, right? You're starting to plant, and those roots are starting to go deep and things like that. That video, I don't know if you've seen it, but we used to watch this video all the time with our kids about planting a tree, and then when the winds come, it actually strengthens the roots, and then when the winds come, and there's a current, a signal that gets sent out to the roots, and then it starts to go deeper, and it starts to go wider, and then the deeper and wider it goes, it reflects also on the trunk, and the trunk starts to go up higher and thicker. And so every time that there's winds, and every time that there's any weather challenges, it sends a signal to the roots to, like, all right, we got to go in deeper, right? And years ago there was a storm. We were living where we weren't here. We're talking about 15 years ago, and massive, huge storm, like massive windstorm. And as we were walking our kids to school, there was this huge, massive, tall tree, but it had come down. And then I took pictures of it, right? I wish I can find it, but the roots weren't that deep. The roots were superficial. And then when we kind of, like, looked inside the hole, and there was all these rocks and stones and whatever, and the roots could not go deeper because the ground weren't good, right? So it was very interesting. It says here, Rob Dilsey goes, the stronger the roots, the better the tree can withstand the winds and the storms of the world. There you go.
Yeah, it's true. And I'm like, it's crazy, because I'm like, in our own personal lives, as you were saying about the stones and the fact that the roots couldn't actually take deeper, I'm like, we can see those stones as personal challenges or personal thought processes or mindsets that can prevent our own personal roots from deepening, right?
Yeah.
Because it could be, I feel like the hardest part about growth is not always the outside, but is the inside. Right? It's our thought processes, is the way that we feel, is the things that we choose to focus on. That can be more of a hindrance at times than the outside world, which is which is hard, right? It's like having that self-awareness to be able to identify those things and asking the Lord for help to overcome them.
So that's your personal application. Now and I don't want to say the actual application, but like the overall, like what the vineyard actually meant when it comes to gathering of Israel. No.
You're like correcting.
No. I don't want. No, that's not it. Listen, stop. I have to choose my words. Listen. Do you understand that I'm still like feeling the heat from Monday's podcast? Like, I'm still like, my eyebrows are singed, like, you know that, right? From the amount of heat that you were producing. Like,
I need to calm down, right?
Yeah. So
I become very passionate, I guess. So let me dial down.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with that. Just just turn down the volume, or turn down the heat, right? So no, but the so you are 100% accurate when it comes to that personal application, right? We need to have
Yeah.
deeper roots. The allegory tree does represent the gathering of Israel. So what ended up happening is that the gospel of Jesus Christ started in Jerusalem, right? Like that's where Christ was, and that's where he built and established his church and all that other stuff. Now, the cutting of those branches and establishing it somewhere else, we're looking at the other tribes, particularly Lehi, where Lehi got plucked from Israel, right, which is that branch, and got planted somewhere else, which is the Americas, right?
Yeah.
And we know that for sure because we have the Book of Mormon. And the Book of Mormon is a testimony of a Christian civilization that lived in the Americas. And so that tree began to bloom, and that tree was fruitful, and that tree began to grow. And then the original tree, right, started to wither away. There's less, there is no worshiping of Christ, right? Like that's that original tree is gone, or dying, kind of thing. And so then what ends up happening is that all these branches were planted all over the place, particularly Lehi's branch. And now out of that branch, the pruning can begin and the grafting can begin, where missionary work and people that are of the gospel and are growing and are flourishing and are being whatever, there's missionary work that's being done. And eventually what's going to happen is that from that branch of Lehi, we're going to take branches from there and go back to the original tree and nourish it and make it grow and flourish again. And every knee shall bow, and every tongue confess that Jesus is the Christ. So not to throw that original tree into the fire and be like, all right, we're done with this nation. But the hopes is that through those missionary work and through the gathering and through the pruning and through the branching and through the grafting, we can go back to that original tree and make it grow again and nourish it and feed it, right, with nourishing. So that's what the allegory tree symbolizes, right? Or so the allegory, the allegory of the olive tree in Jacob 5. So that's the general application. But out of that, there's just so much personal. There's so much personal applications that it's, and the root is one of them, right? The one that I don't know why, but it keeps coming to my mind, and is about the importance of, and I'm having a hard time putting it into words, and maybe people can help me, but it's about having children in the gospel that are raising children who are Christ-centered, that have Christ-centered lives. Because you never know, and again, and I don't know if this is what I mean. And again, I'm having a hard time here. I may be, let's say, the original tree, and when I have my kids, they're the branches. And there might be a time, and it's happened already to me, where my kids have helped me because of something that they said, or I've struggled with something. Even Seth is on his mission, and this kid is dropping some friggin' truth bombs, and I'm like, dang, like that's right. And he's getting me to think, and he's getting me to whatever. But it's just the benefit of branching out Christian wise, because then whatever the seed that you plant, those seeds and those fruits will come back and benefit you at some point in time.
You're so right. I love the whole concept. So that's been heavily on my mind too with regards to parenting, right? And especially previous general conference that we had, there was this one talk that penetrated my heart, and it talked about intentional parenting and how as parents we're not meant to be bystanders.
No.
We're not meant to be on the sidelines. We're meant to be in there and the whole thick of it, right? And then this other particular talk, this past general conference, also spoke with regards to intentional parenting. And I'm not sure who the general authority was. I have to go back and re-listen to the talk. But one of the things that really struck me is that he shared an experience about his mom and how she, like, not changed the course of his life, but made him more aware. When he was 12 years old, his mom asked him, do you have a testimony of Jesus Christ? Like, blatantly, just straight up, right? And he said that he was kind of taken back by the question, because he's like, I was like a good kid. I was making good choices. I thought I was like living the gospel, right? So I just like he was just following the motions, right? Going through what like Christ-like living would be like, right? But he's like, when my mom asked me that, I never actually asked myself if I believed and or if I had a testimony of Jesus Christ. So he said that with his mom, he just kind of like took back and he was like, no, actually I've never asked. Like I don't know, like I haven't received that witness, right? And so he said that his mom, he was shocked that his mom was like totally understanding, kind of expected that answer. And then she challenged him to seek that answer for himself, to go and to read his scriptures, to like, to find out for himself, right? Long story short, he decided to read his scriptures. He decided to seek an answer from the Lord and receive that personal witness. And that struck me quite a bit during general conference, because I thought about my kids and I thought about the intentional parenting. And I am an intentional parent because I always do think of ways of instilling our values, and not only instilling our values, but helping them to understand the why. When I help them to understand the why, then I give them the opportunity to govern themselves, right?
Yeah.
And to make choices, because technically if you're not making choices, how could you get better at it, right? Anyway, um Raquel and I were in the car and we were driving to school, and I felt the impression, or I felt the feeling like I needed to have this conversation with her, and I did. It was intentional. I was like, Raquel, have you, like, do you have a testimony of Jesus Christ? She talks about serving a mission. She received her patriarchal blessing. She has such a huge desire to fulfill the things that are in her patriarchal blessing. But when I asked her, she's like, I guess when the missionaries have asked us to pray about it, I kind of have, but she's like, but that's about it. And so then we talked about being more intentional with it.
Hmm.
And I was like, and then at the end I was like, do you accept my challenge? I had no idea how to finish it. Because, you start conversations and you're like, I don't know where this
Let's
is
see where
going
this
or how
goes. Yeah,
to finish it. So I was just like, I kind of just fumbled through that whole process because it's my first time doing it. She's my oldest child. Like I've
yeah.
never been
We,
intentional with the fact of asking her, hey, do you have a testimony of Jesus Christ?
yeah.
And then kind of help her navigate that process. But when I challenged her, she's like, I will, I'm going to do it. Right.
Yeah.
Because we talked about it. I'm like, it's the whole concept of taking roots. Our
Yeah.
kids, I told her too, I was like, you know how much I love the Lord. You know my testimony. You know that, like, this is the priority in my life. But I'm like, it's not enough for you to know that I love that. I'm like, I want you to know for yourself, and Heavenly Father wants you to know for yourself, right? Because
Yeah.
that is the only way that something can take root, that
Yeah.
something can continue, like you talked about that tree getting stronger. That's the only way, right?
Well,
But
as I'm listening to you talk, and we got like 7 minutes left. I I'm getting emotional here listening to you talk because I've I've become that branch for my parents, and so my parents, they were always Christian. Like, I mean, they, born and raised Catholic, and I love the Catholic tradition, and I love the Catholic teachings and stuff like that. And my parents always taught me about Christ, and at a young age, right? Baptized Catholic, all these different things, and then they kind of, then we joined the church, and they kind of fell away. I continued, and I served my mission, came back, worked really hard in the ward that I was going to, and I kind of like, again, my parents kind of like fell away a little bit, and so I worked with them. My dad's towards the end of his years, started coming back. We had sealed ourselves as a family. My mom is a hardcore temple goer now, like, and I'm not saying because of me, but this was all of her children, my sister, my brother, and myself. We stayed true to the gospel. My parents fell away, and now all three of us kind of like gathered together to help my parents. And yeah, my mom's going to the States today to go to the temple because she wants to go to the temple. And so it's that whole, like, I've become that branch, right? And so it's very anyways, just the importance of teaching your children to love Christ, because it will come back and bless you. Not necessarily that you're gonna go away or stop believing, but whether it's intentional or not, or whether it's just something that they say, whether it's a teachings, whether it's something, that branch is going to come back and it's going to graft back to you, and you're going to receive blessings from it.
Yeah, I agree, because there's things that my kids have said that I've been like, in the moments where I've needed it, they've said it. Ruby, my youngest, I always tell them like everything's figure outable, right? Like whatever problem is ahead of us, whatever challenge we have, everything's figure outable, right?
Mm-hmm.
And one day I was outside and I was stressed out. I think I was running late.
Whoa, what? That is so not you.
I don't know if I was running late, but something was happening, right? And Ruby was there and she's like, Mama, she's like, everything is fixable. That's what you always tell us, right? So everything is fixable. And those words that she said, I was like, oh man, I really like, you're right. Like, it makes me, when we think about our parents, when we think about our children and the things that they do for us, like, it does make me emotional as well to know that even sometimes whatever we teach them, that we don't realize that it's taking deep root.
Yeah.
And then when we need it, they turn around and they say the very same thing. And I'm like, oh man, that's exactly what I needed at the time that she did it.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And so we're living testimonies of that, right? And so the allegory tree is the very exact same thing. And so as we close off here, just the importance of missionary work, right? To be able to, we receive the gospel, right? And then there are many now who just don't have that. And we are those branches to those who have not had the gospel, or to that tree, or to that nation that is withering away. And so just again, the just seeing the Lord's work and just being able to plan, to future plan this whole thing and mind, what is it called? Mastermind this whole, this is a good tree, take some branches, plant you, and because you're going to come back. And I love how the Lord works. Rob Dilt says here, I really enjoy these podcasts because it makes me think about my understanding and testimony. As you discuss this week's lesson, I can hear you say Jesus' name often. I can see Jesus in the scriptures. I can hear him in conversations and conversations. I can feel him in all of my being. Thank you for your selflessness and sacrifice for me.
Why am I crying?
I know, this is just
Oh man, thank you. That was a really kind comment. Thank you so much.
Yeah, this is an emotional podcast. Yeah,
oh my gosh, like,
it's nothing.
I'm wearing makeup, something that I usually don't do, and now I'm like trying.
So we do apologize that we have to run short in this podcast. Maria does have a what do you call it? She has a workshop that she needs to attend to, which is understandably, but she's here and she from her car, and she woke up even earlier, and it's like, oh my gosh, look at this girl, like changing.
Listen, 100%. I reverse engineered. I was like, okay, where do I need to be? What time? Okay, what time do I need to get up? Okay, what are the things that I can do? Okay.
Yeah.
And it happened.
So, ladies and gentlemen, we highly encourage you to please continue your studies. I did put the link in the description below, so you are more than welcome to click it to see the full lesson plan. And also, if you go to the next week's, it'll show you all like the studies if you want to follow with us as well for next Saturday. We love you. Thank you so much for joining. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe, and just share with somebody because they might benefit from what you've heard today or what we're speaking about today. So come follow with us.
Absolutely. Everybody have a wonderful day. I hope that your Sabbath tomorrow is amazing and you get a chance to rejuvenate and reconnect with the Lord.
Absolutely. Take care, guys. Have a good one.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.